Hello and welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. My name is Shogun. Joining me today again is my good friend TechnoShaman, and we have a lot of interesting things to discuss today. So we have the topics that you gave me in your description, which included some really interesting subjects like sideloading genetics, prokaryotes, reverse Stuxnet, advanced consciousness speculation, and Antarctic expedition. So I want to get into all of these. But before we do get into all of these, can you tell me about these cicadas that have these seeming sort of silver armor or whatever on them? And what do you think that's all about? What do you think that is explained by?
All right. I only have working hypotheses in regard to them because I've only measured them. The one I put under a crate to monitor for a little bit, and my best working hypothesis is that ants have seen our ability to make cars and other machinery, and they see a bunch of parts. So most of the cicadas have died like maybe a month or two ago. Also, simultaneous to that, just so happens to be a fungus that A, feminizes the cicadas, and B, causes them to produce psilocybin. So they're basically tripping balls and acting as, I guess the internet world would call them traps or femboys or something. But essentially, there's a number of cicadas that are infected with a fungus that turns them into femboys. They end up, that's actually useful for the trees because it can be too much of an overload for a tree, and it will kill a tree if there's too much cicadas that embed themselves in them because they suck their sap. But the question is, did this arise naturally or through some scientific experiment? Because it just goes back to Alex Jones's turning the frogs gay.
Wait a second.
Okay, hold on.
Are you saying?
It's a podcast, so you gotta obey the whatever. Go ahead, Techno.
I'll let you ask a question in about a minute or so. So there's the turning the frogs gay, which everyone makes fun of, but we know there's dioxins being pumped out. In Pittsfield, there's they're still discovering buried transformers with things called polychlorinated biphenyls, which be more than just having estrogenic effects, fetus problem effects where it creates handicapped children. So the side streets situation to avoid the noise. Sorry. But anyways, for at least since GE was GE was the derivative of Edison, which everyone knows who has delved into Tesla's history knows that Edison stole many of his ideas and created he created his place where people came up with ideas, but he owned the patents. And one of the Tesla's quotes was, "I don't care if people steal my ideas. What pisses me off is that people can't come up with their own original ideas." But anyways, I see these cicadas. They have a silver coating. There's very few ways that this can arise naturally. My best guess is that, all right, so it's around the smoking area. So there's cigarette packs, and cigarette packs usually have a foil coating, and maybe some of it fell nearby, and ants might gather some of the foil, but through gathering the foil, they might create like a mech type creature for some purpose or another. And moreover, about 2 months earlier, I fed ants. I had some nits in my hair, some I forget what you call them. I guess you call them lice or something. That I did get rid of them, but the thing is, at one point it was about 20 miles away from where these cicadas arose. It did have my blood in it, And even earlier, before my shooting, I was living in a barn, and ants built up a pile of tobacco and cashews, which at the time were two of my favorite things. I love to eat cashews, and I love to smoke tobacco. So my first conclusion was that they saw me as this big being and wanted to interact with me. So they built like the equivalent of like a Buddha statue or a cathedral for me, and like only a few of their select members went in, and either that or they were trying to trick me, but I don't think that, especially since I already announced the quantum immortality type thing and said I would exchange genetic information with the queen. So there's a lot of intertwining threads going. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna continue my interview based on your questions. So you mentioned that you want to discuss prokaryotes. What do you have to say about prokaryotes? How do they fit into this? You still hear me?
My mic. Give me a second. My mic fell out of my ear. I'm still trying.
Yeah,
This backstreet's going to dead ends. Anyways, with prokaryotes, all right. Some of the stuff I remember from microbiology is that they have these things called pili, which are essentially like bacterial penises. And the only time they form pili is when they've confirmed that the other bacterium that they're interacting with doesn't have this genetic data. So that's why bacteria are able to outpace a lot of our ability to form antibiotics and whatnot, because if one bacteria comes up with antibiotic resistance, it's not like, it just goes away. What happens is it forms a pili and sends it, and then it goes down the line. It's not like really a male or female thing, but it's more like a, hey, do you have this new game, or have you tried the new Sonic the Hedgehog? And this bacteria responds no with like some carbohydrate or something, and then it sends the genetic information in the form of the plasmid. To discuss plasmids further, one of the first artificial uses of plasmids came around in the 1970s when we took E. coli. People are normally afraid of E. coli, but most E. coli is harmless. Like 99% is harmless. It's just when it gets virulent form. Virulent might be the wrong word because that implies fragments of bacteria, but virulence usually just means it's
pathogenic.
Causing damage. Yeah, pathogenic might be the right word. But yeah, this gets me on a side topic so still insulin costs about $500, at least in America. I'm not sure about in Europe or whatnot, but this should be out of patent. Could have been out of patent 20 to 25 years ago. So I'm not sure how they are able to keep on charging that price. It's to the point that, all right, so that some people call it hacker spaces because of the bad propaganda about hackers. They just changed the name to maker spaces. But biohacker or biomaker spaces, or whatever you want to call them, are trying. So instead of using E. coli, they're trying to use fungi to make it so that people can brew their own insulin, which makes a lot of sense, since you can essentially get a month's insulin for $10 instead of $500. But you should be able to get it from the pharmacy for $10 now. I just have to wonder what the fuck is going on. And the E. coli method should be out of patent, so something weird's going on. I don't know. But yeah, essentially going back to prokaryote side loading, I'll sometimes just tickle the edge of my nose and maybe rub it against a bottle of orange juice that I'm not going to drink for between 6 to 12 hours and let it sit there. and then I'll drink it again and see what it picks up. And then um, I'm starting to lean into nonlinear temporality. So during my I was homeless for a couple of months. As I said, I had the lice in my hair, so I left the shelter I was in for a couple of days because I didn't want to spread it to anyone. I ended up in a couple, like 10 or 20 miles away, just because I was sticking around. But I ended up not coming back for 2 or 3 days. They let me in for a day, but that's only because they made a mistake. And the people in charge it was like a Sunday, so they weren't there. And as soon as they realized I was there, they kicked me out. So they kicked me out. I ended up having to sleep under awnings and bridges for about 2 months, all because I didn't want to spread lice to other people in this fucking shelter. But I shouldn't be too pissed. Being pissed isn't going to do anything. But yeah, it goes back to feeding. Like I fed that lice to the ant, and then I didn't want to. I stayed there for a night, and then I didn't want to spread it to. Like, because I was out for 3 days, and then they said go to the hospital to get a new referral. As soon as I went to the hospital, all of a sudden they don't have beds. How the fuck do they fill 3 or 4 or 5 beds in 3 hours? So it makes me think that. So like, they're also at this place. They took over a school. There's upper floors that are blocked off, but still have lights on. So it makes me think that this is actually a fucking weird experiment. And to add further to the mystery, this shelter is run in a joint project between the Catholic Church and the city. So make of it what you will.
So
but, yeah,
can you elaborate on the concept of side loading?
Well,
can you explain to us what is side loading?
So even if I jack off into the bushes, maybe there's some genetic information that some bacteria or some insect or some plant will want to pick up, and then through that it might side load it. It might interact with other creatures, and actually this can through genetic engineering be enhanced. So there's this project through DARPA called Insect Friends. So this ties back into the cicadas. So the idea is to create insects that spread genetics to plants that make them so that they have. So essentially, like instead of getting shots for. So right now we're getting shots for COVID immunity. Instead, what would happen is like an insect lands on this plant, maybe licks it or something, and from that, like it picks up some genetic information that makes it immune to the plant. So my honest opinion is that they're not going to care about the people who don't get the vaccine because they're just going to release it through insects and give people the vaccine whether they like it or not. But by the same token, with these biohacker spaces, we can use the same thing. So this leads into my reverse Stuxnet concept. So the divide between the biological world and the computational world has been getting thinner and thinner, razor thin these days. Might as well call ourselves fucking wetware at this point. But essentially, what happened was there's an air gap at the Iranian nuclear facility, and with Stuxnet, what it did, it relied on somebody bringing in a USB, I guess, to bring some music or some shit into the facility. And what it did is it caused all those centrifuges to crash. So I have to wonder, what if you did that for biology? Air gaps don't fucking exist anymore in that case. Somebody sneezes and you could crash a fucking centrifuge. But if you reverse the concept, would it, like right now we rely on sugars and not like, at least what we're told by our understanding, we rely on sugars to create ATP. But what if we create like micro centrifuges and create our own nuclear reactors inside our bodies? it's an out there concept, but like, what if we like it's a feedback loop with the in silico life, and then it just feeds back and forth. When the silico needs an update, it goes to a USB. You might have licked the USB or something, and then through the electrical changes, it's going to be subtle as fuck. But this even gets to something else I've been speculating on. So nominally, our ultimate limit is the Planck length, right? What do you think, man? So 10 to the negative 34th, right?
So can you elaborate one more time in the simplest possible terms on the concept of reverse Stuxnet?
Okay. So essentially, instead of destroying reactors, you build reactors through code that, from our early understanding, supposed to stay in silico, but actually migrates to the biological world and beyond, perhaps, whatever beyond consists of. So beyond leading, all right. We're going to Planck length. What do you understand about Planck length?
If you could give a TLDR for me and the audience, I think that'd be great.
Okay, so essentially the idea of a quantum, we think like people call it quantum leaps and all this shit. Quantum is actually supposed to be the smallest possible jump possible. So 35 is not
Techno, your mic is cutting out a little bit. Can you? Is he cutting out for you, Shogun?
Yeah, I'm getting some distortion now. What's going on, Techno? No, Techno's been assassinated. Okay, no, he's come back. Thank God. Techno, are you still alive, bro?
Yeah, okay. That's 30 all right.
Consumed by the fires of hell right now. The pandemonium. Because of this computer mic. Are you with us, TechnoShaman? Hello, Mr. Batman. Are you with us, TechnoShaman? TechnoShaman? Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Well, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, we can
I
hear
don't
you.
hear Mr. TechnoShaman.
How are you, Mr. Batman?
I'm doing quite well, sir. How about yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. It's good to see you.
And
Well, you're
good to
here.
be seen. Thank you, sir.
I would very much like to have you on the podcast again. As you know, you've done several episodes with us. I think it's time for another. I've sent you some DMs, but while I got you here, I'll plead the case.
I understand completely, sir. I've just been so busy with school and learning all the new stuff that I'm having to learn. You know, with having been a sub for so many years, all I had to do was take and give out the information to the kids, you know, teach it, and then I could throw the paperwork on the teacher's desk and walk away. Now I'm actually having to input scores and create tests and do so much more work than I've ever done before. The lovely thing about it is I'm not getting paid anymore for it.
Well, God bless you. And what you do. But I was listening to your episode recently about the Book of Revelation. It's very good. So if there's anything you'd like to discuss or teach about, you know, when you're not too busy. Techno, have you returned perchance? I think we may have lost Techno for the night. So I suppose that would conclude this episode early, as this was Techno's episode, and if he's been silenced, you know, what can we do? So does anyone have any questions that he can't answer or comments that he can't respond to?
If I may, what was the topic?
It was ants and philosophies related to ants. I wanted to kind of ask them.
Not exactly, but yeah, you can see
I
in the
wanted to ask
announcements.
them
You know,
about the tobacco and the cashews they brought him. That was interesting.
there was so many things I wanted to ask him, so many questions I was going to ask, but sadly he's gone silent. So
Well, we should wait at least a minute, see if he comes back.
Yeah, we'll wait a couple minutes.
Yeah.
If anyone has any questions.
I believe the moral to the story was don't jerk off in the bushes. That's what I picked up.
That's right. If you are in the bushes and you're jacking off, your genetics will be there, and the ants will grab it.
Man. Side loading. It's a new concept to me. Jerk off in the bushes and impregnate the ants.
It makes sense if you think about it.
Apparently that's called side loading. Techno? No, he's gone. All right, well, you guys heard it here. We will have a follow-up episode, and hopefully we'll get the rest of the story. For now, thank you for joining us on the Roundtable Discord server. Join us again at 8 p.m. Central. We'll have another great Warhammer 40,000 Lorecast. And you can find TechnoShaman and all our other podcasts, Roundtable Discord server, every day at 8 p.m. Central, hashtag RT Podcast, over 300 episodes of our podcasts on 4 different channels. God bless you all, and I'll see you, I guess, back upstairs.